Yeah. Hi. So now I wanted to make a summary of all the things that we said about neoclassical model of trade. And look, I know that you're probably worrying about the exam. Like, oh my god, how should I supposed to remember all those derivations, all those proofs? You don't need to. Look, what I wanted to do is to show you how the complete model works. Probably you've never done anything like it over the course of your study to this deuce part. And I know it was complicated, but look, I just wanted to prove everything to you, that it actually works. You know me, I know I like to prove things mathematically, and neoclassical model is actually the kind of case where you should actually do it. You should prove things mathematically. And why is that important? I will actually go back to it. Because first I want to tell you a little bit about what I expect from you at the exam. A little bit later, I want to also discuss like applications of this model and the meaning of this model, policy implications that were used over the years. Okay, so look, from what I want you to know definitely, well, I want you to know the four propositions. Factor price equalization proposition, Stolper-Samuelson proposition, Rybczynski proposition, Hatcher-Olin proposition, and in addition, John's magnification effect. And look, I don't want to prove, especially in case of John's magnification effects, although those are very easy to prove once you know the trick. But I definitely want you to show how they work using the tools that that I've been showing you. So, production possibility frontier, isoquants, indifference curves, Edgeworth's box. For example, what is the easiest way to show a Rybczynski proposition? Well, the easiest way to do it is to use Edgeworth box. You build an Edgeworth box and then you just show what happens when it gets bigger. One graph, you've demonstrated how Rybczynski proposition works. Then, remember that the most important from theoretical perspective and from exam perspective is Hatcher-Olin proposition. Especially the one last graph is the key. Please know how to make it, how to demonstrate how it works. And look, you can be creative. You've got a lot of tools. A lot of those things can be shown in different ways, but definitely focus on these things. Also, what you definitely need to know by heart are assumptions of the model, because they are the keys. You start with assumptions that led us to creation of this model, and then within these assumptions, we arrive at four propositions plus John's magnification effects. Okay, and actually, look, this is all I want from you on the exam. I do not require from you any mathematical derivations, proofs. Just show me that you understand, that you can use properly the tools we've discussed, like learner diagram, very nice, to show a factor price equalization proposition. Look, definitely, when you're going to be preparing for this exam, keep in mind that you start within the assumptions, you have some tools you can use to demonstrate each of these propositions, and make sure that you have the tools to show each of them. Preferably graphically, because this is going to be the easiest to you, but just remember how you need to move every curve, so it makes sense, and so you can comment on it in such a way that I know that you understand the mechanism behind it. Okay, now let's go to setting the model in a broader context. Okay, look, we started within this model by setting out a lot of assumptions, right? Oh my god, like I don't remember exactly how many there are, but like from what I remember, that was quite a lot. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh, 9 to 10 depending on how you measure it. But so look, we've imposed a lot of restrictions. Look, so what actually we've been doing for the past 15, 17 videos is that we were building artificial economy. This economy is very simple and it works, but it works because of its simplicity. It works in a very predictable way that we can measure. And look, within this economy and within the assumptions that we've established, we were able to prove these 4 propositions and show magnifications. Now, you can say, like, is this realistic? Well, if you question if this model is realistic, you could question like that any economic model. Look, model by definition is a simplification of reality. Look, we do not have any better tools. So we create models in economics. We cannot make experiments like biologists do. We need to build models within which we can actually say what works and what doesn't. And look, what are the advantages of that? Look, advantage of that is that you can, if you build a model with some assumptions, later you can relax some of restrictive assumptions and see if the conclusions hold, right? And by doing so, you can extend the model. You can make it more general. But you will also see that if I relax this assumption, everything breaks. And if this is what is happening, we might get also important information that maybe this assumption is the key to understanding the problem. Okay, now, I told you that general equilibrium models, which we usually, in context of international economics and international trade, we call computational general equilibrium models, are like way more sophisticated, bigger versions of the model you just saw. And yes, this is how they work. But look, of course, reality is way more complex than what we saw in this model. But, of course, the simplicity of this model is its advantage. Complexity of those other models is disadvantage, but it has other advantages because they can make better predictions because they take more things into consideration. So now, is what we've learned about neoclassical model of trade relevant? Well, it definitely is. Well, first, hedge your own proposition works. As you will see, that it makes sense even intuitionally. Because we can clearly see that countries that have some factors of production in abundance export goods which use those factors intensively. Now, does it always work? Look, to answer this question, the best way is always to refer to so-called Leontief paradox. Around 1950s, Leontief was a scientist working in the United States. He was actually measuring the content of American exports in terms of capital and labor, and its imports that were competing with those exports, and was trying to assess if the model works. And what he was trying to accomplish, among other things, is he actually wanted to show, well, what he was expecting to get is that he was expecting that the goods that United States are exporting are capital intensive. Well, what they are importing are labor intensive. As you can probably guess, because of the word paradox, he didn't get this result. He get completely different results. Actually, it turns out that United States was exporting labor-intensive goods. And there appear a lot of different explanations of Leontief paradox. First one, maybe the easiest was, well, we are assuming that technology is the same in two countries, in all the countries, so maybe we should include technology like we do in Ricardian model. And that was one way to go. Definitely, some of this paradox could be explained by technological differences. Then other economists stated, this is about tastes. Well, tastes are different between each country. And remember, we've introduced into this model identical homothetic preferences for a reason. Because we didn't want the taste to disturb the clear picture we were getting from the model. And look, this is something very often stressed in economics in various contexts. There is something called home bias. What does it mean? Look, home bias in context of international trade is usually reserved to the fact that if we take some models, they predict more trade than actually takes place. As it turns out, customers, for various reasons, prefer to buy domestic goods. Look, this is something, of course, we could take into consideration in our utility functions, but if we do so, we would lose the clarity of the propositions that we're able to get. But look, home bias also works for example, trading in financial assets. It turns out that generally international economic models predict way more trade in assets than it actually takes place. And this actually creates a lot of different puzzles. Like we have so-called home bias in assets puzzle, consumption correlation puzzles, risk-sharing puzzles. Because, look, for example, if you want to have a stable portfolio, and look, if you have a portfolio with stocks, let's just say, and now the value of these stocks depends on the economic situation in your country. So if you want to insure against different shocks that could happen into your economy, what can you do? You can purchase assets from different countries. But as it turns out, people don't do it. And as a result, they suffer from when some shock takes place in their economy. Okay, But of course, still, this demand explanation wasn't convincing enough. Now, the key explanation, I think that like most economists would agree on, is that actually the United States was exporting goods that were human capital intensive. So that were using very skilled labor. And that is one of the ways in which, for example, we could extend this model. We could add more factors of production. Remember, here we just used two. But look, the premise can be applied the same if we have a model with skilled labor, unskilled labor, versus skilled labor and capital. Or there is, of course, we can put more and more factors of production into the model. We can put dynamic biases, and this is what scientists actually have been doing. Look, the model in the state I've showed you, it's from 1960s. Let's say 1965 at most. In general, a lot has happened since then. There was a lot of papers, a lot of additions, and actually the models used by government offices and by International Trade Organization, IMF, World Bank, are just bigger versions of that. Way more complicated, of course. Okay, so what we said definitely is the Heckscher-Ohlin proposition, right? This one works, but like I believe, in my personal opinion, that the proposition that affected economic policy the most is Stolper-Samuelson proposition. Look, what this proposition says. Look, if we will have more of some factor of production, then what is going to happen? Well, from Rybczynski proposition, we know that we will produce more of that good, right? But what about the relationship between price of a good and the remuneration to the factors of production? Because look, if we have a situation in which price of one good increases, that is actually causing an increase in the reward to a factor that uses it intensively, and actually decreases the reward to the other factor. Okay, and look, why is this proposition so important? Because look, imagine a little bit reversed situation. We've got usually it's been analyzed in the context of immigration from Mexico to the United States. Look, if we have more immigrants coming to the United States from Mexico, then what should happen? Well, look, we will have more labor in the United States. So, where do we go from here? Rybczynski proposition, right? What should happen? The United States should be producing more labor-intensive goods and less capital goods, right? Well, yeah. Okay. Now, step further. If we open, if we are engaging in open economy, prices in different countries will be equalizing, right? So if prices from different countries are equalizing, what will this do? This will, of course, impact rewards to factors of productions as well. How? Well, if we get that if prices in different countries will be going more and more closer to each other, from factor price equalization proposition, we know that wage and rent in different countries will also be equalized. But of course, remember, in the real world, we've got tariffs, we've got trade costs, we've got a lot of goods, we've got and we've got a lot of the factors of production. So this is not going so smoothly as in the model. So look, two things, like now, if we engage in international trade more by, for example, decreasing tariffs, well, we can expect that the goods we get from abroad, will be coming to our country. Look, if those goods are labor intensive, what will happen to our labor? Well, our labor, price of this good will be going down in our country, and as a result, our workers will be getting less and less money in terms of wage, because unskilled workers are usually the ones that are producing labor-intensive goods. Okay, so now what we've learned that immigration will definitely impact the production. And look, if we produce more, so supply of something increases, what will happen? What will happen to the price? Well, the price should go down. If the price of a good will go down, then the wage should go down as well. Okay, so look, if we introduce either international interactions with different countries, and especially this, when you look from the perspective of rich developed countries, it might look for you like this. Look, on one hand, we are opening borders and we allow more unskilled labor. As a result, we produce more of labor. We produce more of labor-intensive goods, but this, of course, causes the fall in their price. This will translate through Stolper-Samuelson proposition to lower wages to workers. On the other hand, the same can happen through international trade. If developed country is trading with developing country, of course, the people that would be suffering the most, at least in theory, would be unskilled workers. And look, that is what was happening for a very, very long time. Like developing countries should be more than glad to engage in international trade, because according to those propositions, they could increase the level of welfare through higher wage of the workers. They are of the workers, laborers in their country. But it would come at the expense of workers in developed nations. So actually, trade integration in the world has been going slowly. To some extent, you can say because of the things that we could take directly from the neoclassical model of trade. Okay. I know that at this moment you probably have enough of hearing neoclassical model of trade, neoclassical model of trade. Next time we're gonna just do trade policy. So we're gonna talk about tariffs and how they impact trade depending on whether a country is small or country is big. And then we're finally gonna move to macroeconomics, which I hope is the part that you're gonna like a little bit more. Okay. I also want to apologize because I realized that since I finished COVID, I'm not in as good shape as I was. So sorry for the tiny mistakes and prolonged thinking about stuff. The doctor said it should last for a little bit longer, but I think I'm getting a little bit better. Okay, so thank you for your attention and see you in the next video.